Nampak semua?
Go, you kena buat one over baru nampak kurus semua orang.
Ha? 1.0
Tak, dia punya skill.
Skill
dia. So, you tak payah adjust. You tekan skill dekat situ je.
ada, sudah tekan yang paling
Yang automatic.
white punya tu. Sudah lah. Tapi tak nampak Fendi.
Oh, Cik Fendi.
Belum nampak Fendi lagi.
Humble sangat.
Ya, sebab nanti bila dia nak lagi.
Can see my screen.
Can see your screen but not clear lah.
Okay.
Yeah, not clear.
The assessor is also distracted. Immediate ask.
Okay, so on the way we'll be joining us. Okay, so good evening everyone, and thank you for joining the session. And then supposed to be done last Friday, and then due to some unforeseen circumstance because of the Senya lady, she visiting our country, so no choice we moved to today evening. So today's topic is about the EUDR. I believe some of you is quite familiar, and also some of you guys are actually heard about this. Okay, so for the EUDR, the official name is actually the European Union Regulation on Deforestation-Free Product. Okay, before this, we always talking about like European Union Deforestation Regulation, but that one is not the official one. The official one is this one, the Deforestation Union Regulation on Deforestation-Free Product. Okay. So before I start, let me introduce a little bit of myself. So my name is Go. You can call me Go. You can call me Zidane. Okay. But you call me Goyang. Goyang macam Goyang. Okay. Lepas tu umur saya 32. Lepas tu as a consultant in the Business Project and Solution. So the area that I'm actually involved in last time, online site survey, the camera tracking, community engagement. This one is more towards going to the orang asli kampung to have a discussion for that, and then DGR SRA, also MSPO. So my degree is in zoology in UNIMAS, and then after that I continue my master in UPM, and then last year just graduated. So this one is just some of the project and also the activities involved. Okay, so what is the objective for today? So I would like to let you guys know to identify what is the purpose, scope, timeline of EUDR, and also to clarify the myth and reality of EUDR, and also to understand some of the definition, and also who is the key actor in EUDR, and also understand about the traceability, the geolocation data, and also to understand the role of due diligence statement. Okay, and also to assess what is the legality, and then what is the role of certification scheme. Okay, and also we will have an assessment. This one is just a written assessment. It will take about 20 minutes, and then total is 15 questions. Okay, 15 questions, total at 15 marks, and then the passing score is 12 marks. Okay, so I believe you guys are actually very good. I believe you guys can answer all the questions. So even though we are in the contact tower in the rooms, but the safety briefing I still need to let you guys know. So on the right hand side is the fire evacuation plan. So we are currently in the training room right here. Okay. So at the back have one exit. Okay. So if anything happens, the closest one is at the back. And then another exit is at the front door over there. So there are two exits. Okay. So if in case anything fire action happen, press the alarm button, and then you can get out for the following meeting. You can also leave the building using the nearest exit like the back. Okay, and then use the stairway, not the lift. Okay, and also do not stop to connect your belongings. because your life is more valuable. So the things that, for example, laptop or your phones or your books can just really protect yourself first. Okay? And also report to the assembly point. The assembly point is just the ground floor and the outside of the contact tower. There's the large area, huge area, that is the assembly point. And then do not return to the building until the authorized to do so. And can also follow the instruction at the assembly point. Okay, so what is the scope that we cover? So I will do some introduction, what is spoilers, and then what type of spoilers, and then overview of the EUDR, and then how the traceability works in the sector, and also what is the requirement for the geolocation. Okay, and also type of information that is needed for the supplier, the due diligence statement, and then your legality, what type of law that we should follow, and also what type of certification scheme that is applicable to the sector that help them to actually, not say comply, is one of the assistance in order for them to actually sell their product to you. So before I start into the real topic, with some ice breaking down. It's quite easy thing. So there are some photos over here. Okay. So what is the raw material? Rubber. Okay, rubber. This one? Now this one is cocoa. Okay, this one is cocoa. This one? Yeah, for example, rubber. This one?
At the side of that
Yeah, betul ini. This one is bamboo, and this one part of this. Okay. So among these five,
you can ask the assistant.
Among these five, which one is actually eligible to the EUDR?
How many you can choose?
You can choose
Out of the five.
Four.
I think
Which one is eligible? That's mean which raw material, let's say you want to sell to EU, you need to follow the regulation.
I'm so sorry, did you clarify that this is coconut or palm? Because I heard someone say, you say palm. Sorry.
So palm, cocoa, cactus, rubber, and bamboo.
Except
bamboo. Okay. So everyone is already expert. So bamboo is not in the scope of EUDR, but we're not sure whether in the future it will be included or not. So once you depends on what is the update from them. Okay, so what is policy? So according to the definition of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, they say that the land is classified as forest if, let's say, it covers more than 0.5 hectares. So the 0.5 hectares, you can have a concept, for example, have the football field, padang bola sepak. Okay, yang padang bola sepak tu, saya cek lah, dia punya land tu 100 meter, and then the width is 64 meter. So it's 6,400 meter. If let's say convert into hectare, it's actually 0.64. So it's actually lesser than the football field. So you can imagine 0.5 hectare is the size of football field, but smaller than that. Yeah, that's the definition that classified as forest. And then you need to make sure that the tree is taller than 5 meter. The tree is taller than 5 meter is like, for example, you sometimes cross the road and they have to fly over. Sometimes they will do this like hug the thing like 1 meter, about meter, yeah, they kind of high up. And then canopy cover 5% to 10%. Okay. So the definition of forest is actually not very big. Yeah, if they say you already fulfill all these requirements, then it's considered a forest. Okay. So for example, if if let's say you have a forest more than 0.5 hectare, I would say a forest person. If let's say you have a piece of land, you have a lot of tree, cover more than 0.5 hectare, okay, but the tree is 3 meter. Okay, the tree is 3 meter. Can we call it as a forest? If let's say you believe in future it will grow until 5 meter.
Yes.
Yes. To say yes to you. Yes. Yeah.
Kalau pembunuhan, kalau piece of land memang dah diwater dan hak milik,
Waktukan hak milik.
then this is it's yours. Okay, so nak cakap forest juga.
Kalau 0.5 meter, lepas tu ikut dia punya definition tu, apa punya
So you mempunyai apa hak tanah yang aku consider as forest. Tapi anda FAO lah. Anda kerajaan potong.
Anda FAO punya definition
Seram.
sebab dia punya pokok tu dia akan macam lebih tinggi setiap tahun lah. Di berapa tinggi tu ikut spesies lah. Okay, why the forest is important? Okay, so because the forest is actually like cover almost 1/3 of the land. So you can see like our Earth is actually still the forest cover, and then they also the habitat to the wildlife, and also the habitat to the plant species, and we can say that the forest is actually important places for the indigenous people, because mostly of the indigenous people they are living in the forest, depends on the forest for the food resources, and then also for the river resources, and mostly they depends on the forest for their income. For example, in the forest have the fruit tree, durian tree, or like the pine, so they can get from the forest and then sells to other people. So that one is one source of income. And also, we are saying that the forest act as a carbon sink, because they have the ability to actually reduce the carbon dioxide. Okay? So they can help to absorb as much as possible the carbon dioxide. So the more forest you got, and then you can more carbon dioxide is absorbed. So we call it as a carbon sink. Okay? And also the forest actually can also act as a commercial activity. For example, some of the company they will preserve the forest for carbon credit purpose. For example, like the Sabah, like only one in Malaysia, like carbon credit forest, the Guama forest conservation. That one is only the first carbon credit is happening, and then they do the auction in the Bursa exchange. Okay, that is one of the carbon credit. Okay. And also the forest can also act as a biomass. For example, like the dry leaf, the roots, the trunks. Yeah, that one we can sell it off to company, and then they can use this as a biomass and then burn for energy. Yeah, so these tropical forests are about 50% of organic. Okay, so there are some type of forests, for example, the boreal forest, deciduous forest, and also tropical forest. So the boreal forest is like America, Northern America, and some is like on the Russia. So the boreal forest is like the area that is quite cold climate area. And for the deciduous forest is the forest that have 4 seasons. Yeah, they have 4 seasons, like changing of the leaf, drop of the leaf, and then have the winter, spring, and so that one we call deciduous forest. And then tropical forest is the most forest covered in the world. They are high biodiversity values. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff in the tropical forest. Okay, so I just researched the Amazon here, because the Amazon is actually lung of the earth. Because over that area, the eastern Amazon is in the Brazil, so it actually have the large patch of forest, but due to some development, they are converted into the agricultural purpose. So forest is become lesser and lesser. Okay? But then after that, until like 2025, they are actually like restoring the forest. So it become like more forest cover. That's deforestation.
What is the rate code? Itu tu kat mana? Macam ini right? On the right hand side, right? Amazon forest is in the center. Then what is the rate? Like what it used to be here?
I think this one is used to be forest. And then they become like deforested and then becomes smaller and smaller and smaller.
So the red one is the deforestation area.
Like past and past. Okay, so our forest is actually shrinking. It's actually getting lesser and lesser. For example, if let's say you are familiar with the Kelantan side, especially from the Cameron Island to the Bangsan area, the lodging area. Actually, before this, because I used to work in Cameron Island, and then I would like do the enforcement, patrolling, and also set up the traffic around the area. So during 1 year, it's still forest. But after the next year, it's become also they are doing cutting down and then replanting.
Replanting for
They are converted into plantation. Yeah, they are converted into plantation. Not replanting. Converted into plantation. Same goes to other areas because of housing development. They want to build the infrastructures and etc. So the forest is getting lesser and lesser. But currently, I think still quite okay because there are sense of the forest become more important. So they actually have more policy commitment to actually preserve the area. So the deforestation rate can be still getting lesser, I believe. Okay, so this is the overview. I will open this video. Here is the overview of the EUDR.
It's well known that we humans depend on the world's forests for health, food security. It's well known that we humans depend on the world's forests for health, food security, and long-term economic growth. At the same time, global deforestation continues at an unprecedented rate, and agricultural expansion drives 90% of deforestation worldwide. To minimize its contribution to deforestation and forest degradation worldwide, the European Union has adopted a law on deforestation-free products, in short, EUDR. The EUDR is part of the EU's commitment to meeting internationally agreed climate and biodiversity goals. The EUDR covers 7 agricultural commodities: cocoa, coffee, cattle, palm oil, rubber, soy, and wood, as well as certain derived products. The EUDR treats all products equally. It applies to commodities and products produced both inside and outside the EU when they are placed on the EU market or exported from there. The EUDR addresses both illegal and legal deforestation with the goal of reducing deforestation altogether. Local populations in producer countries are those who suffer the most from deforestation, climate change, and biodiversity loss. In this context, producer countries and smallholders stand to gain a lot from the successful implementation of EUDR. First of all, smallholders from outside the EU are under no direct legal obligations and will not face any penalties by the EU. The obligation of due diligence lies with the companies placing the product on the EU market. the companies must know and provide the geolocation of the plots of land they are buying from. If you're a smallholder, your business partners might therefore ask you for information to make sure that their company can fulfill its due diligence obligations. Smallholders should make sure 1. That products are deforestation-free after 2020. 2. To produce in accordance with national legislation. 3. To provide the geo-coordinates of the plots of production. The new regulation brings many benefits and opportunities. For example, many companies are supporting smallholders through financial investment, trainings, and support with dedicated tools as a reaction from this law. In addition, the EUDR's traceability requirements could have positive impacts on smallholders, such as increased income and resilience, as well as higher biodiversity in the area of production. Owning your own data gives you a stronger, more independent position in the value chain, which can lead to fairer prices. Consumers are increasingly demanding sustainable products, so new business opportunities can arise for you. When doing their risk assessment, companies must consider legitimate claims by indigenous groups, so the EUDR provides an opportunity for you and your community to claim your rights. In case you or your local community's rights are not respected, this information can be shared with EU authorities and relevant companies. You can use a mobile phone to collect the GPS coordinates of the production area. No complicated tools or software is needed. The information is free and easy to collect through a digital app, and in most cases it will only need to be collected once. No personal information will be transmitted along the supply chain. You can lean on your business partners for support, as well as on initiatives from farmer cooperatives and your government. To halt deforestation, the EU is committed to assisting partner countries in living up to EUDR. The EU provides support to prepare smallholders for the new rules, including technical assistance, guidance, and funding. More than 80 million euros have been co-invested to support the transition to inclusive, deforestation-free, sustainable value chains in collaboration with governments from producing countries, companies, and smallholders like you. Stopping deforestation benefits everyone, as it can increase income and protect our environment, health, jobs, and communities. By working together, we can create deforestation-free value chains and ensure sustainable livelihoods, especially for smallholder farmers.
So basically, this video is just like general overview of what is EUDR, what is the scope, and then who is the responsibility, and what is the thing that is actually needed to do. So what EUDR are actually explained. Okay, so this one is actually a regulation from the Europe. It's actually on deforestation-free product. Okay, what is mean by deforestation? Because this word is actually quite common. You can listen every day or read it from the news every day. But what is the actual meaning of deforestation?
It changes the status of the forest.
Changes the status of the forest. Okay. Maybe Amira, what? Any cutting down trees? Okay. It's quite cutting down trees. Or like Alasha?
Yeah, my understanding is similar.
Similar cutting down trees. Okay. So based on the EUDR, they actually explain that the deforestation is the conversion of the forest into a plantation. Okay. If let's say you have a piece of land or piece of a forest land, okay, and then you convert it to like planting the cocoa, the soya, or the oil palm, that one is considered deforestation. So for this law, they are actually very focused on you need to be not deforestation, need to be deforestation free, and then the law is actually come into force 29 June 2023. Okay, so 29 June 2023 is the enforcement date. So after this date, if let's say you want to sell your product to the EU, and then you need to follow this regulation. Okay, and then also this deforestation, they have one cut-off date, okay, the 31st December 2020. Okay, so it's a cut-off date. So if let's say you have a plot of land, okay, and then you want to convert it into plantation after 31st December 2020, you are actually not allowed. Okay. You are not allowed. If let's say you want to sell your product to the EU, okay. If let's say before 31st December 2020, you converted it into plantation and then you sell to the EU, it's still considered acceptable. Okay. So it will be something like this. So the 31st, this one is the cut-off date. So this one is 31st December 2020. Okay, this one is the forest, for example, forest, and then you converted it into like oil palm or something. Okay. And then you harvest it during this time before 31st December 2020, and then you sell to EU, it's actually still okay. If let's say you converted, this one is forest, same thing, go to the oil palm, this one is not allowed. Okay. Good. So for example, if let's say Ashby is the government side, and then she want to give a piece of land to Simon, okay, and then the agreement stated that you can convert the forest during like 29 August until 29 September during the time. But then at that time Simon didn't have money to actually convert it, and then he wait until like 1st January 2021. So if let's say Simon converted during that time, is it still eligible to EUDR?
Maybe I need to edit. So
this
I
means
keep shopping a piece of land.
a piece of land, and then the agreement stated that you only allowed to like convert into plantation before 2020 indicates, and then Simon at that time didn't convert it. He wait until 2020. Then only he converted.
Shopping converted it during 2020 or
After 2020. Because the agreement is on the paper saying that can convert it before, but then Simon at the time didn't convert it. You wait until after 2020.
she's in agreement. In agreement need to convert it before 2020.
Yeah.
But physically,
Physically converted after 2020.
the answer is not
Eligible. Right. Because in the agreement, even though it's stated that only can convert it before 2020, but actually Simon is converted or conversion after 2020. We already see on the physical card. Okay? It's not following the paper agreement. We see the physical card. If they say physical card is after 2020, and then it's not eligible to EUDR. That means you cannot export the product to EU. Okay. So what is the commodity is actually applying the scope of EUDR. For example, here, cattle, foods, cocoa, soy, palm oil, coffee, and also rubber. So why only these seven? Because they are the most trading. They have the trading value in a large volume. For example, like rubber, like what we do during our other project, when you check it, the trade value is actually quite a lot. For example, like palm oil also, the trading value. Okay? And also this commodity is actually the most consumable that we actually selling out or selling overseas to the EU. Okay, so inside the guidance document of the EUDR have one section, the one is called NX1. Okay? The NX1 is telling us that what is the relevant product that is eligible to EUDR. Okay? So inside this have like oil palm, cocoa, and then soya, okay? And then they have the relevant product in the list. Okay? So for example, like the regulation applies only to product listed in NX1. So for example, if your product, each product actually has its HS code. The HS code is in the harmonized system code. That one is internationally used. That if let's say you want to export, the custom will actually check it. Okay? They will check it whether it's applicable to the list of product. If let's say your product is actually in the list, then you need to like follow the EUDR. That's when you need to like do the due diligence, make sure the geolocation is correct, make sure the legality from the site is actually need to follow. Okay. So for example, like soup is not covered by the regulation because even though soup is a product that made up of the relevant commodities like palm oil and all that, the raw material, but they are not actually listed in the relevant product. So that's why the soup is not applicable for the EUDR. Okay. If let's say another condition is, if let's say your product, and then is listed in the relevant product, but then have two relevant commodities. So in these cases, how we should do? Is it we need to like follow or submit two due diligence based on each commodities or only one? For example, like the chocolate. Okay. The chocolate is listed in the relevant product, and then it consists of the cocoa and also it consists of oil palm. So which one we should like follow? Do we follow both or just submit only one due diligence?
Where is it?
And I did this thing. Any talk? For example, like the chocolate is the relevant product in the EUDR. And then inside the EUDR have like relevant commodities, cocoa, oil palm, soya, right? And then chocolate consists of oil palm and also cocoa. So does this chocolate need to like submit two due diligence because they got oil palm and also they got cocoa?
I would say
No means no need to submit. No need both. Okay, yeah. Actually it's correct, no need both. Because we see the composition of the product. For example, like the chocolate, the composition is actually made out of cocoa. The composition is actually more on cocoa. So you only submit the due diligence for the cocoa. Yeah, for the oil palm one, the one is actually depends on the composition. And also, for example, like the packaging material, the wooden box, like wooden box, paper box, the one we like have to, for example, the one to sell the product, usually I keep the product inside the paper box, right? Is the paper box eligible to be used here?
Paper box is the packaging.
Packaging. If I say the paper box used as a packaging material, is it considered eligible to use here? Some say yes, some say no. So for packaging material, if let's say only for have to do the packaging material cover the product, it's actually not eligible. Okay, not eligible to EUDR. So we will need to do the due diligence for the packaging material. If let's say the wooden box or paper box, it acts as a product itself. So maybe a box and have a lot and then as a product and then sell to you, that one is eligible to EUDR. So need to do the due diligence for that product. How about recycling material? Recycled material. For example, like the furniture, and then the furniture is made up the recycled woods. Okay, is it like still need to do the due diligence for that? Okay, no. Yeah, because the recycling material is considered they already use up their life already. They already use up their main purpose. So if let's say they are using recycling, reuse it, it's not eligible. And also just now, like envelope also, if let's say as a packaging material envelope, even though you put like one oil palm product inside the envelope, if let's say act as a packaging material, they also not eligible to EUDR. Okay? If let's say the envelope as a product itself, then it's eligible. How about the byproduct? For example, the byproduct of wood, the wood chip, for example, byproduct of the palm fruit, the PKS, palm commercial, they
Depends on the use.
Not depends on the use. It depends on, actually they are eligible to EUDR because they are code, the HS code. The HS code is actually fall under the relevant product. So actually they are supposed to do the due diligence. Okay, so this one is explaining about the EU is a major consumer of this community to actually fight against deforestation and forest degradation. So, okay, for forest degradation, for you guys understanding what is the meaning of forest degradation? Silent forest degradation.
Consider as forest that wasn't like before. We would mean like a forest, like a primary forest. And then it's anti-forest went on. Like maybe it's a primary forest or anti-forest. So when it faces forest degradation, if it's no longer considered as a primary forest, it's still a forest, it's still hutan, but its services, its ecological services, or I guess value of it overall is not as before.
Right.
So you will consider it. So it could be because it lost the ability to menampung certain tree cover. So all of this is forest related. While deforested land mean like no longer forest land. It's either a plantation or it's non-forest based, non-timber kind of forest, non-timber based kind of plantation, or just residential area or maybe like even a resort. So maybe that's the difference, I would say.
Yeah, right. And for forest degradation, it's actually the forest, what we say, already totally forest that is maintain the ecosystem. There is some like deterioration, some of the ecosystem that cannot maintain. So that one is called forest degradation. So if let's say you look into the EUDR document, it actually got specific. The forest degradation means that they are converted for the primary forest or naturally existing forest into a planted forest. The planted forest means that you go and do the seeding. You go and do the seeding and then you do the planting by yourself. For monoculture species, only one species. And also one of the definitions inside, they also mentioned that it's a conversion into a plantation forest. That means you totally convert that forest into a oil palm plantation. Totally cut off. So under the regulation, operator and trader must prove that product is not originated from recently deforestation land or contribute to forest degradation. Yes, yeah, because in the EUDR requirement, we need to make sure there is no deforestation happen. It will be deforestation free after the deforestation. But what is the meaning of operator over here? The meaning of operator.
But it sounds like covers everyone, right? Everybody feels like covers everyone. But it should be under EUDR, it should name the first person who places their product in the market.
Simon's answer is actually correct. So the operator is in that the first person that has the product in the EU market. So for example, I want to sell my palm oil product, and Simon is in the EU. So when I'm selling the product to Simon, Simon is the first person who got this product and then place it in the EU, in the Europe. Okay? So Simon is the operator. Okay? So there is another condition also. Okay? If let's say I sell my product to Simon, and then Simon sell to Amira, and then Amira process it into a new product. Okay? In this situation, who is the operator? Yeah, right. Yeah. Because in the operator, the definition is the first person placing the product. Because when I pass to Simon, he's the first one to place my product. And then Simon pass to you, pass to Amira, and Amira process into a new product. So this new product considered placing in the market. Okay? So consider the operator also. So Simon will be the primary operator, and then Amira is the second operator. So for trader, it means that just do the trading. We will just do the trading. For example, I sell to Simon, and then Simon sell to Ashifin sell to Fendi. We didn't have any conversions, just selling the product in the supply chain. So they want to trade. So for the operator and trader here, it actually means the person in the EU. So actually for us, we now need to follow this regulation, but we have actually no choice. For example, if let's say I sell my product to Simon, and then Simon sell the product to EU, then EU is actually to follow this regulation. So in other way, we are actually forced to follow the regulation because of the traceability. Okay, so this EUDR also saying that they are reduce the EU timber regulation. Okay, there's another law in EU, is EUDR, the EU timber regulation. So this EU timber regulation is talking about they want to make sure there is no illegal logging timber that is actually exported to the EU market. So they have certain period. After that certain period, EUDR will take over. There is no more EUDR. Okay, I will mention this later. Okay, so we have a transition period for the SME and also the non-SME. Okay, so for this one is just first one here. The first transition period for the SME one is actually until 2023 June. For the non-SME one is actually until 2024 December. This one is the first transition. And then after that, because there are so many questioning, we are actually cannot still adapt to this EU regulation. They are actually postponed. Another year. So for SME, the SME one extend until 30 June 2026, and then for the non-SME one is 30 December 2025. Okay. But then at the end of the section, actually they have some new update of this thing. So at the end, I will talk about the new update of this thing. But currently, this one is the transition period for this one. Okay. And also the SME and also non-SME, that one is actually referring to the EU people. The SME is not referring to our Malaysia. Okay. So in EU, they have their SME definition, their non-SME definition. Okay. So the one is all referring to the EU side. Okay, so this one is the one I take from the guidance document. It's just one you guys have to actually understand how the transition is. For example, you have a product, for example, like palm oil. So the date of production means that you harvest the raw material. For example, you have the piece of oil palm plantation, you harvest it, that's the date of production. Okay? So for example, Fendi have palm oil plantation, and then he harvests it on 28 June 2022. Okay? After that, he sent to Simon. Simon put the product in the EU before 30 December 2025. During that time, Simon only to follow the EUDR regulation, because during that time is still a transition period. Okay? So you can just still send it. If let's say Simon pays the product on 30 December 2025, then for the large SME, for example, Simon is a large SME, then she will need to follow the EUDR, because that's the end of the transition period. After 30 December 2025, you need to follow the regulation. Okay? So after that day, or on that day, then EUDR is available.
Basically, kind of like the internal baseline for them. So let's say you harvest before this date, then consider you dapat transition period forward date. Tapi kalau you harvest lepas hari ni, dia terus masuk. So,
yang transition period tu macam honeymoon tadi, you masih boleh jual lagi untuk tadi master itu macam follow punya regulation.
Actually, our transition period, I think that we have to really like transition, like try to change all the practices and the reason why they will do this is because if they macam ni kan, nanti dia punya timber punya raw material terus tak tu. So it's like not nice, not great, right, for your industry if like there's straight away no input or timber coming in. So if you do this, industry comes in, basically we need it.
So for example, let's say for Fendi, we harvest it on 29 June, inclusive on that day or after, and then let's say sell to Simon, and Simon has it before EUDR is not available. But after, if let's say Simon is large SME, after 30 December 2025, he needs to follow.
Okay.
This one here. So same goes to the wood product. But wood product you need to be like more careful, because here only written down the wood product listed in Annex 1 regulation. In the regulation for the EUDR, they have one Annex 1 document. If let's say the wood product is listed in that document and not listed in the EUDR document, then they can follow the same transition period as the raw material. But for timber product, it's a bit special. You can see that the date is actually different.
Wah, actually tahu.
Yeah. The other like, okay. So contoh macam Fendi, sekarang ada pokok lah, forest. Okay, lepas tu harvest before 29 June. Okay, and then you place it, you sell to Simon place it before 30 December 2025. They follow EUDR. They follow EUDR. But if let's say Simon pays on 30 December to 30 December 2025 to 30 December 2028, still follow EUDR. Okay. Because during this period, 29 June 2023 until 2028 is a transition period for the timber product. But after 31st December 2028, Simon need to follow EUDR. So next example is inclusive. So let's say harvest it on the day, and then you place in the product in the EU before 30 December 2025, is still EUDR. From 30 December 2023 to 30 December, this one is EUDR. It's a bit different because for the on top one, before 29 June 2023, the transition period is a bit long because they want to like clear the old stock. yeah, whole timber. Yeah, because normally we harvest the timber, we will keep a certain period of time and only sell out. Okay, so we want to like clear the old stock. So that's why the first one is longer period to actually clear the stock. So for second period, from 29 June 2023 inclusive, this one is actually, if I say you harvest, consider a new timber. Yeah, consider it's a new timber already. So that's why straight away EUDR is come into effect. So this one, okay. Okay, so this one is European Green Deal. Before this, have you guys about the European Green Deal? Pernah dengan European Green Deal punya perkataan? Tak pernah. And the European Green Deal is actually a framework, or it's actually a commitment for policy. It is actually want the EU country to become a climate neutral. Okay? So inside this commitment or policy, they have actually involved a lot of things. For example, like mobilizing research, fostering innovation, zero pollution, and then anything like financing the transition, macam-macam lah. The thing that you guys can think of, or you guys cannot think of, is inside here. So this European Green Deal is actually an umbrella. It's an umbrella, and then below have EUDR, the CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. Yeah, so it's actually one of the commitment under the European Green Deal. So this CBAM is actually more towards the company or the industrial that actually they want to export their aluminium, steel, fertilizer to EU, and then they will get charged for the carbon tax.
Maknanya yang macam ni adalah yang main green apa? Main green. Dia tak macam main hijau. I think you would think of this as the mother of all of the laws relating to sustainability. Dia bawa dia macam-macam. Apa yang ICC yang rate 2 ada dia. Lepas European Green Deal ada kan, dan baru ada yang rate 2 setelah EUDR and all that. Dia banyak, they also have one related to recycling, also plastic lah, sampai ke plastik tadi yang difficult, it has a lot. That's why you see those tadi macam apa farm to fork lah, so food system pun ada dalam ni juga.
Dia cover banyak.
Dia cover all, and then spesifik dia lahirkan lah all the definition regulation kat situ. So this will be the main governing framework. When people say that why India like this, go back and critical like ini, target dia untuk reduce deforestation. What outlines what is deforestation and EUDR lah. Master dia consider. Main hijau ni dia macam voluntary kan. Besar macam law. Nak ikut juga.
So what is the objective of this rule? So actually, this rule is actually one to avoid for the listed product that the Europeans to actually buy, to actually use and consume that is contribute to the deforestation. Okay? And also, they want to reduce the carbon dioxide emission because when you're cutting down the borders, it's actually increase the carbon dioxide emission. So when they implement this regulation, they want to cut down carbon emission and then address all the deforestation driven by agriculture extension. So that's why they have the cut-off date. They have the cut-off date. Okay? The 31st December 2020, if they say the land is converted after that date, and then you cannot sell. So they are actually controlling we actually reduce all the deforestation product into the EU. Okay? And of course, to preserve the biodiversity ecosystem. Okay? Because when we have a large chunk of forest, we can provide habitat to them, maintain the ecosystem, and etc. Okay, this one is the community. Just I mentioned about what is the community that is under EUDR. Okay, you can see like cattle, oil palm, soy, whatever. Okay, but maybe we can curious now. Like oil palm, soy, cocoa is all foundation new product, but suddenly cattle kenapa dia dalam komoditi, dalam list lah, dalam list.
Rambulah, kawasan yang banyak makan. Tapi dia macam apa? I would say lah, it's EU. You say EU I would say like non-Malaysian way of livestock. So kita ni only because the way our ecosystem is, our climate is, will have always grass and go anywhere. But if you look at other areas, they need clear the land and then to have like safe tempat untuk dimakan kan.
Mostly for grazing, for them makan.
What about actually ini cantik yang apa macam rata je.
So that's the reason why cattle is inside the list. Okay, so product can only be based on exported from the free market if it prove they are deforestation free. There is nothing to deforestation. But what I just said, the cut-off date is 31st December. You need to make sure your product selling to EU is not coming from the area that is deforested. Okay, after this day. And also it will be legally produced in accordance with relevant legislation of the country of production. So for example, if let's say Malaysia, it's Malaysia and I sell to Simon is EU, and then I need to follow the Malaysia country production regulation. Okay, so what kind of regulation you guys can think of that you need to actually follow? Contoh. Anti-bribery and corruptions, all those things. So all those things. And also for the third requirement is to be covered by this means this one is a declaration. I would say the due diligence is a declaration to actually declare that your product is actually not coming from deforestation. And then what legal requirement that you are actually following. Okay. And also geolocation data. You need to provide the geolocation data, the coordinate. The coordinate where is your raw material coming from. Okay. This one is the main thing that you want. And also segregation. It will be segregated from the non-compliance commodity. Okay. So among these three, which one is the most important one? First one. Because if they say this first one you cannot handle, and then the rest yang belakang tu tak payah buat. Because first one you need to know whether they are actually followers, then only can get the jurisdiction, only able to do the due diligence and etc. So the first one is the most important one. Okay, this one is a little bit about the EUDR. So just now I mentioned this one is actually a law also for EU. Actually want to reduce the illegal timber product that is actually exported from outside country, Malaysia, from Indonesia to the EU. Okay. They want to make sure there is no illegal timber from our exporting side. They need to do the sourcing. the sourcing to get a legal product that is actually moving into the EU. Okay. So what they will do, they also will do the implementation on the due diligence system. So they will check on the origin of the timber product. Okay. Include where is the place your timber come from, what is your timber species, and then whether it is individual timber products, and etc. Okay. And they will carry out the risk assessment. So they will want to know, to assess whether you guys have the permit to actually harvest, what is your management plan, the forest management plan, and then maybe have any corruption level, that kind of risk assessment. Okay. And after that, identify all the risks, what is the mitigation. So maybe back when you do the audit, you will do the independent audit to actually reduce the risk, or they will go sustainable sourcing to actually get from the country product with lower risk and etc. And for EUDR, it's actually cover widely. The scope is actually more wider. For EUDR, only timber and also timber product. But for EUDR, it's actually cover the commodities, oil palm, rubbers, more coverage. And also EUDR is more on covering due diligence also. But one more important thing is the geolocation data. The important, quite an important requirement for EUDR is the geolocation. Okay. Yeah, so EUDR cover only legal and also legal deforestation, forest degradation. But EUDR only cover the legal part. Yeah, so EUDR is covering more things. Okay, so next we move to reef and reality. So the reef is the farmer cannot cut down and also sell one of their own tree. So in India, it's actually cutting tree or harvest tree, yes, tree allowed. Okay, kalau macam satu tempat dia ada pokok, walaupun potong satu pokok ke dua pokok ke, dia bukan deforestation. Sebab dalam EUDR tu dia cakap deforestation kalau tebang pokok, lepas tu tukar tadi plantation. Lalu itu panggil deforestation. Tapi kalau macam potong satu pokok dua pokok tu, is not in the definition.
Cakap tadi kan, kalau di itu hutan, kalau ada hutan, then tengok yang first kiri tu lah, kira kita potong start harvesting dia kan. But if let's say dia dah produce dah jadi palm oil before 2020, lepas tu mungkin ada pokok yang biasa-biasa yang ini dia tak buat semua area dia tumbuh, itu lah mungkin yang saya cakap boleh je potong dan jual. Sebab that land no longer considered forest, and considered as a plantation area.
So yang law itu tak ada restriction lah, tak ada cakap farmer dia tak boleh potong pokok. Dia tak ada dalam, farmer tak ada dalam scope EUDR. Okay, lepas tu every single grain of coffee must be tracked to its origin. Okay, it's actually not necessary. Okay, before I explain this, for the traceability part, in the traceability is actually meaning that you need to track back the origin of the raw material until the end. Okay, so for change of custody, is actually want to know the movement. How's the movement of your material is actually from one side or one area to another area. And the chain of custody of actually four like more, but the most famous one is the four one. The first is the identity reserve. Maksudnya contoh macam saya foundation, okay. Lepas tu I jual bagi Simon, lepas tu Simon jual bagi Fendi. Okay. Kalau kita nak trace back tu, kita boleh trace back. Okay. Sebab yang dari Fendi tu, masa kita hantar dokumen tu, ada macam delivery order, delivery ticket, ada semua nombor bulan. Kita boleh dapat tahu dari siapa. Okay. Boleh tahu tak spesifik person yang siapa dia hantar. Okay. Kalau contoh macam in terms of segregation, this one is, for example, Agama plantation and then Amira plantation, and then both of us is actually certified, certified, and then Simon is uncertified, but then 3 of us sent to you, and then 20 like separate the certified one as a certified one, and then Simon one is actually separate as a non-certified. So we separate segregation.
Model tak boleh
mass balance tu yang tu lah, mass balance. Tapi untuk EUDR tu, mass balance tu dia tak boleh pakai. Dia kena betul-betul boleh segregate certified. Kalau hanya certified punya, baru boleh dijual. Kalau campur non-certified punya, dia tak boleh. Dia kira satu batch tu tak jadi non-compliant, dia tak boleh jual.
Sebab tu nak ambil SPO, ISPO semua lah. Kalau macam sebab biasanya yang selalu practice mass balance ni macam mil tau. Mil set. So sebab tu untuk macam yang contoh untuk yang UDR kan, dan declare dia semua. And UDR comply. Like apa, I mean that's the best way of apa nak mitigate risau ni lah. Sebab aku contoh kalau dia cuma ada satu tangki ke apa kan, payahlah sikit nak buat segregation. Every time they process the illegal material tu sebelum tu dia kena macam buat flushing.
Sebab still ada lagi yang non-certified.
Ya, diorang ada higher risk lah memang certified.
Yang kita macam campur banyak plantation tu, kita macam contoh Simon plantation, saya plantation, Amira plantation, okay, kita certified lah. Maksud kita hantar bagi Fendi lah. Lepas tu Fendi macam campur dalam satu bag, okay, lepas tu hantar bagi Natasha. Okay. Itu kita panggil aggregator traceability. Sebab yang aggregator traceability dia maksudnya boleh missing beberapa batch tu, dia boleh campur. Kalau contoh macam Natasha dia tanya, okay, saya nak bikin 50 metric tons yang Fendi punya produk, tapi yang Fendi tak tahu mana satu plantation yang jumlah dia. Lepas tu Fendi boleh terus cakap lah, yang saya dapat punya plantation tu semua certified. Kita boleh declare semua sekali. So produk nak bisnis dikenal produk yang produk macam experience. Experience tu dia campur. Kalau yang tak boleh campur tu segregation, dia kena segregate non-certified dengan certified. Okay, lepas tu EUDR means mountain of paperwork. Adalah, dan dia mountain of paperwork, tapi sebenarnya dia cakap dia paperwork, bukan paperwork lah. Dia banyak kerja, tapi kita tak payah guna tangan tulisan. Kita tak payah guna tangan tulis. Lepas tu semua dalam sistem. Sebab mereka ada satu information system. Lepas tu yang untuk operator, dia kena submit dia punya due diligence system tu kepada information system. Lepas tu apa ada information tu ada juga dalam yang sistem. Kalau nak check tu boleh check lah, boleh tengok.
Tapi aku sih initially it is lah paperwork.
Rasa initially it is paperwork. After that very much initially masa first nak kira
rasa macam SPO lah kan. Initially masih payah. After that macam okay lah, senang sikit sebab semua tinggal review je. So sekarang I would say initially it is di EU yang kata
Dia memang banyak. So EUDR is free very barriers to share to semestinya. Sebab yang EUDR tu dia macam nak orang tu nak follow macam practices, sustainability practices, pastikan produk yang orang hantar tu dia bukan dari deforestation punya produk. Lepas tu contoh macam awak ada certification, ada satu assist lah, juga satu assistant untuk pastikan follow punya legal requirement dan semua tu. Dia bukan satu area lah, bukan satu area.
I have a question. So it says here EUDR is non-discriminatory. But is there like high risk, low risk country?
For the EUDR, they actually will come up with the list lah. The list, high risk, low risk, and standard risk. So for Malaysia, it's actually standard risk. So if they say for the high risk one, well, why they are high risk? Because they are checking for their previous record. Maybe they have like high deforestation record, or maybe they have like low enforcement or low forest management, or they have like high corruption levels, that type of things like they actually don't follow. So they have high risk. For low risk one, it's like or they have a very strong enforcement in terms of maybe forest management, have a very clear record of less corruption and etc. For Malaysia, it's now still standard risk now. But then you it changed to low risk. The one still not sure because actually like POB, they are actually not satisfied with what the EUDR is actually banning for us. Because we're actually doing like so many works. I have the MSPO, ISPO, everything. So they actually like arguing
We still involved with small order.
Biasanya ada nampak lah EU dalam isu lah, dia cakap EU recognize MSPO. Banyak news saya tapi it's not sure whether they are actually officially recognized or how is it. And the one is not sure yet. Because when they say EU recognized, is it like EUDR is law recognized or actually recognized? Not to have an official segment that is coming up from them.
Just mention EU recognized.
But EU did not recognize any voluntary scheme, right?
Yeah, not recognize any voluntary scheme. It's just the news come out. EU recognize MSP also recognize.
Recognize based on what?
Because got one case in SU. 2 days ago, I attended the event. I meet with the FGB sustainability people and I asked this question and then he said it's just a verbal talking among them, but then EU is actually haven't discussed. EU side haven't discussed whether they are actually recognized the MSPO, but the news is straight away written down. EU recognized MSPO. So it's actually misleading news.
Actually also I agree most about it. I know you were sitting outside when we were inside during the EUDR workshop. They were declaring themselves as already compliant with EUDR. Then now you have the EU and all that, they are the ones that can't give the regulation. So when they are to go. But usually it's not after Ashking. This what we are writing here is not it has no relation to the country benchmarking. We are just saying in terms of the principles, EUDR does not discriminate. So our principle is always the same. The cut-off date applies to everyone. The national law is individual to the point of production. So that's what it meant when non-discriminatory. So it doesn't say that Malaysia have to follow 2020, then maybe Russia they say you have to follow last year, that's your cut-off date. So that would be a bit beneficial to them, because it's a bit much later. But EUDR applies everything the same way. Whether or not the countries are ready is a different story. So then that can affect, of course, not only the ranking, the benchmarking of the countries, but it can also affect the risk level of a supplier. Like I think there's only a handful, Natasha, of those that are standardly included, and then the high risk one they are doing, when they say high risk, like they are not saying that you cannot trade. They're saying you can trade, but your level of due diligence likely you still can trade. It's not like FSC. I would say FSC more discriminatory than
Yes.
EUDR, because FSC said if it's coming from Russia or Belarus, the FSC certificate is not recognized. That's because they are having war, kan? Belarus cuma ke Russia when they invaded Ukraine. So they said anything coming from that region is not recognized under FSC. So you can imagine you're certified for FSC, but you can't sell any FSC product to anyone. Then can go any time, no. And we know at this rate, other things for Russia will do anything. So they just said, no, we can't sell the FSC. But India says they will buy things, but they are high risk.
Okay, so the next one is about the EUDR due to the supply bottlenecks and also the price increase. So this one is more like we are talking about the EUDR giving more problems to the supply chain because you are not able to given the data something like this now. Okay, and also the price increase. Whether the price increase is actually yes or no, this one is actually not sure. If they say you are compared to EUDR doesn't mean that the price is actually increased up. Okay, so and also you have the certification and also like you are actually the support is actually available support available for the smallholders, etc. from the governments, cooperative and also like the company actually give the trainings to let you guys know how do we do it, what is the requirements, etc. Okay, so we are actually helping them. Okay, so there is no money to go out for EUDR, also not correct, because for like the past 1 year, we are giving the training from like GIZ, we are compared with GIZ. Actually, the funding is coming from the Europe side, so actually we take their funding and then give the training. So when you say Europe doesn't have additional money for EUDR, it's actually not correct. The funding is there, it's just that how you want to push, how you want to approach to get the money.
You have to approach different countries, like to like GIZ project, it's like German, but the Germany corporation would have requested this from the EU to get some sort of capacity building for those related to the German side.
Also, I think our project both governments also provide funding.
But for that part, I would say our ministry did not get fund from EU. It's because our donor, which is GIZ, identified the government as orang yang berkepentingan as part of this program. So therefore, they need to engage them, which of course our government saw as a free money, free training kind of thing, right? So they went for it. After this, like the one that the value proposition we do, that will have to come from government pocket money unless they request from the different funds that they have from EU.
I talked to someone from EU delegation also, and they hired a consulting company to do the same as what we're doing for GIZ, like for Sabah. So
For training,
the training, capacity building.
So actually, money is there, it's money is there. Just that how we want to get the money is the thing of. So EUDR is SME user actually not okay for the downstream SME can actually excluded for the due diligence segment. And then we also have the transition period. Okay, we have the transition period to actually let trainings to them. So actually, we are actually talking to them instead of like the EUDR saying that it's actually to them. So here is some of the some questions. EUDR ini hanya untuk syarikat besar atau mengenai kita? Actually not. Okay, so no matter you are like small company or big company, as long as you are supplying to the EU, then you still need to follow. Okay, doesn't mean still size of the company. Okay, then kami cuma trader, ini trading bukan ada tanggungjawab kita, tanggungjawab kami. So even though the law actually not directly applicable to us, but then we still need to like provide the information. Because no choice now. Because when your customer, for example, I'm Malaysia, and then my customer is Simon, I pass to Simon. But then Simon is didn't send to the EU. He sent to Amira in Singapore, and then Singapore sent to the EU. So end up no choice now. Simon still need to collect the data from me. Okay, so I still need to send the data to Simon. So we are forced to follow.
Customer expectation everyone wants to do. Dia kan bayar supplier kan, and then dia supplier pun kan bayar supplier. So masing-masing tolong masing-masing. If you just pass the data and tak tahu verification, saya marah lah. Sebab they know the law doesn't apply to the supplier price to them. So dia cakap buatlah, tolonglah buat. That's unfortunately I was for consultancy lah.
Lepas tu dah ada MSPO, PRC certification scheme lah. Lepas tu dia jadi automatic compliant to start. Sebab EUDR tu dia tak recognize apa-apa certification scheme. Walaupun tu ada MSPO, ISPO, PFC, ataupun awal ada 10 certification scheme tu, dia pun tak kisah. Dia tak recognize. Tak layan. Yang penting tu mereka nak tahu apa punya coin.
Kalau I think actually because like their regulation would have a bit more than the certificate. Kalau macam MSPO kan dalam MSPO dia ada cuba limit juga, tapi dia tak sedetail EUDR, so they don't trust. And I think CP also can't trust fully.
Kalau MSPO pun dia berbeza pun salah.
Boleh salah kan? Dia tak ada because they don't take it for granted atau tapi kadang-kadang like even meal they give coordinate also juga.
Tapi yang mereka ambil coordinate tu mereka macam-macam guna setelah tu tak. Pergi tempat tu ambil macam-macam. Sementara requirement tu dia tak akan communication tu lah.
Difference in EUDR is polygon. But then I always wonder, like, most crop that you mentioned already has certification that cannot be some RSPO, right? It's exactly the same in terms of your your NDP check and all that. So what does EUDR do to people who are already complying? So it's like a double work, right? So since I'm already volunteering myself for RSPO or responsible, sustainable, farming, so every major crop is it. So that might be something kalau saya lah, I fikir lah saya sudah memang voluntary buat dia di sini.
Macam MSQ punya geolocation, dia tak ada polygon, dia cuma location tempat tu. Sebab kalau untuk punya sepadan dengan tanah tu semua ada Japan. So kena refer dengan Japan. Sebab tu RSQ punya
main waktu
MSQ punya cuma location. Tapi dia polygon tak ada.
Sebab the thing is the EUDR don't recognize the certification scheme because not every requirement the certification scheme is actually able to meet the EUDR requirement. Understand? Because based on their evaluation, some they actually request for polygons, and some they actually request for
You
evaluation.
can add on to my case, it's not that it's not non-discriminatory. So if you're not certified, you also get sell. But you can buat lah something, right?
Because the certification is more towards the
It helps lah,
quality.
right? It helps, yeah. But I think from, maybe just to add on to what you said, I think the industry would feel some sort of way is because they feel like they did something very voluntary, right? And then now when it comes to EUDR, again, dia macam apa, I know it's overburdening a bit, tapi tengoklah, like I would say like if you're supplying heavily to this, you has a very crazy standard, right, for sustainability.
It's very similar to how America is doing.
Yeah, same.
It's the buying power. Basically using the buying power to do what you want.
Yeah.
Because you either jual or tak jual.
Tak jual, betul.
Use that kind of.
Yeah. So our government, even NPC dah cakap government tak sempat nak macam play around with the market to shift the buying to elsewhere, because I think everyone is so comfortable already with their current supply chain, kan? So memang tak sempat lah. So it's either you comply atau tak jual langsung. So it's like
There's no phase implementation.
tak ada. I think we will still stick to having EU as a very dependable source lah.
Because as far as I know, the EU already has, before EUDR, so they already have their preference towards certain certifications. Like as far as I understand, the moment you join to any international guy, you're in that supply chain, memang kena buat. There's no two ways about it. So masa tu you ada preference ke certification sekarang.
Sama lah, regulatory pun ada all the certification that, so they would prefer like you get certified with ICC ke, with SDP ke, red cert ke, but not really I guess. So it's like you can still sell out, but I guess all the application listed is to comply lah, which most of it if you're certified helps already, but just like double
Yang supplier jangan ada tulisan tu, okay, saya cuba forward. Saya janji lagi, we need to do the verification. We need to make sure the information you're getting is actually correct, etc. And then asalkan undang-undang Malaysia mesti okay. Ya, undang-undang before, but still some of the requirement then verification itu kerja alat ratusan saya. So it's also not correct. Because if they say for example, small order, they actually the one that send the material to you, and then they need help, then you should help. You should help them now. For example, you send someone to go around, take the locations, and help them to verify their documents, their traces, etc. Outsource dia, ada consultant semua ni, yes, you can outsource, and then you can ask for help, and then the responsibility still fall under the company, because we are just a third party to actually verify your documents, the information, the responsibility of that product is still under the company, so they still have to take the most responsibility. Lepas tu EUDR tak buat, EU tak boleh lagi produk dari Malaysia. If they say already prepared, and actually then you can still selling to the EU, as long as you follow the requirement.
The second last one very important and makes sense. For a consultant perspective lah. Maksudnya apa data yang diberi tu you're not liable lah. Like that is what the people give. We did our verification. If let's say some other people come, the client cannot blame us lah. We did our best, but if something not disclosed properly, then we can do that. Second last part. proposal with client. So like I would say for LGB code 3D, and then PP soon, their cost of consultancy quite low. Why? Because the data collection part, we impose this to their supplier. We actually put it a bit mahal sikit. Why? Still the data collection part is to the direct supplier, but we will actually go on site to like audit and verify the different data that was given. So for the most part, we can include this because it will be very high for data collection part. But for standard one, like for like desk review kind of verification and all that, it's already as part of the consultancy. Data can tidak ada tau, Mira. We will have two problems here, either inaccurate or even different.
Because sometimes they have a question first time, like the client business, we ask for the data, and then the supplier, actually the supplier, the client, then they ask us that, what is the role for you guys to actually collect this data?
Kita nak bagi sebab kita kenal kita kan. So dia macam kau siapa so and then so they sometimes tell our client to actually revise the contract or agreement they have, because they would say the contract I have with you is normal material. I never sell you EUDR compliant material. So if you want EUDR compliant material, you have to revise the contract. When you revise the contract, they have to have certain things of like, or if I have a third party like Peterson, then they have the rights to my application. So that's one instance they tak bagi lah. Biasanya yang inaccurate bagi kita something like this one lah. They give an estimation, then when we layer it on the RTIS platform, kita nampak macam kenapa tak kena it's sama bro. Tak kena. Dia macam like they would like have like, let's say a polygon, like let's say if it's a triangle again. So you think like the triangle, the part where it will be a triangle, it should be like stopping where a palm oil should be, right? But sometimes when you zoom in, you know, the palm oil implantation still extends waiting for the butcher to get. So you macam how you distinguish like yang triangle tu dengan yang ada area tu yang I nampak still palm oil. So baru dia kata, oh actually that one also ours. I say that's not triangle, stuff like that kan. So kita macam expand kita bila kena ambil balik lah apa saya cakap. Then we have the problem is inaccurate, which as a consultant you will say is a risk of the lah. So if the highlight and then tell the client, you have to raise this as a risk. So this could be happening in low risk region, but now you see right, from something that I can just simply ambil data macam tu je, now you cannot take it as it is. Now you have to kind of like upgrade that into a standard based kind of supplier, but I have located in the low risk region.
I have a quick question. So the EU operators would be the one penalized, right?
Will be penalized.
Yeah, if
That's
anyone
Sama. Okay. For this one, right, it's actually, if let's say, got a commercial agreement, okay, for example, I'm a supplier, Simon, and then Simon to Natasha, so Natasha will be the EU. So if let's say, Simon give you the non-compliant product, when you do the due diligence, checking, not correct information, blah blah blah, you can actually penalty, but it's not like, even though the guidelines say 4%, it's actually 4%, but this one is under commercial agreement. The commercial agreement, whether you want to give the penalties, actually or not.
Basically, what Ko is saying, right, the one that he's going to impose it to me is not by law.
Oh.
He's trying to so by law, because he's EU operator, right? But he might want to cover back some of the losses because he's getting wrong information from me, right?
Yeah.
But because I'm not eligible under law, right? So he makes me sign the agreement and says if there's any combined material, I might have to pay 4% of the batch I give to him. So he's doing that on a commercial basis, not by law basis. But it depends. If I'm a client who understands his plight, I would still agree, and especially if he's a very faithful buyer, I would still agree. If like a new buyer like that, I'll just go to OF and stuff. Just sell to other people.
But by law, kau yang
By
orang yang
law,
akan kena
the EU people will.
whatever that happen behind the door, EU the one to know. Who is the person?
How you going to recover by or?
It's just money lah, no jail, nothing.
You
Yeah,
might
your product will not enter EU.
But at constant periods, they might ban go actually. If he's constantly doing it, he might ban go. They're just like, maybe 4% is nothing really good. So it's like removing from the whole supply chain.
Just so that they produce the EUDR compliance
Your
product.
4% of annual revenue is quite a lot. Of your annual revenue, so not your batch stock. So they will ask, let's say go 100 million, but go maybe supply like out of his total revenue, only 5% of his business is going to the EU, but maybe out of the whole picture, it might compensate again at 5%. So getting someone like 4%, it's like, yeah, that means go would probably think like, hey, I can only get like 1%.
Can I give a bonus and they're doing stuff?
Yeah.
Just 1%.
So it's quite a big deterrent if a large portion of your business is like EU. If not, then
Dia recognize lagi lah, nak ada details.
detail betul kan, selalu cakap EU.
European Union official declaration, the MSQ certification.
There's nothing
But
published, right?
unpublished regulation. There are so
And then
many.
the source of the information to we cannot use that. Totally cannot use that.
Okay, so EUDR will harm smallholder in developing country. So actually, no lah, they are actually getting financial support, getting the trainings, etc. Okay, so we are, if they say they need help, we actually got people to actually help them, provide the location, data, etc. Okay, so this one same. Same. So the risk classification system is pretty literally. So this one the benchmarking. Benchmarking for high risk. If they say you are high risk area, then you need to subject to high extensive checking, more audits, so going on. So if they say for high risk area, the audit sample actually is 9%. If, for example, I'm from Africa, can I say Africa is high risk?
No, usually all is country like Russia, Belarus, all like high risk.
So for example, I'm from Russia. For example, Russia, I sell my product to the EU. Then I'm in high risk. For example, I send 10 sample product to the EU, so the EU can do the checking for 9%. So this means 10 sample, you need to check 9 samples whether actually I follow the requirement, whether my product is actually deforestation free, whether I follow the legal requirements, whether I work for the geolocation. Okay. If they say standard risk is only 3%, that means 3 samples they will choose. If they say low risk is actually 1%. Okay. So this depends on the risk level and then how many samples they actually go and outage. Okay, so the definition, this one is most covered about what is deforestation free, what is degradation, what is forest. Okay, so for this one, so for example, you have primary forest on before 2019, 2020, maybe like 2021, and then you do the due diligence, and then what is the status after that? They say, wow, if you want to harvest from the primary forest, is it like, is deforestation free, or they are actually like forest degradation?
Mungkin mana satu tu, dan let's say like, because you put that pre-2020, right? And then that's post-2020, they're asking us for which one? For primary to primary?
For primary to primary. Primary to primary. If let's say, before 2020 is forest, but after 2020 it's actually still forest. So if let's say you are cutting harvest for 2 years status, dia deforestation bigger atau dia kira deforestation atau forest degradation?
Forest degradation.
Tak, sebab kalau dia before 2020 dia primary forest kan, if it's still maintain primary forest, consider okay lah.
Tak, kalau dia tebang.
Primary forest dia tak ada tebang. Dia primary forest sebelum contoh 2019 dia masih forest. Lepas tu masa UDI buat due diligence check tu 2021 dia masih forest. Maksudnya dia tak ada commercial, tak ada macam tukar jadi plantation tu, dia punya status hujung tu maksudnya kosong. Deforestation fee, conversion fee tak ada
Conversion fee.
tak ada conversion.
I think first two conversion fee. First conversion fee.
Let's say primary forest to private forest,
I would say consider degradation.
Ah,
Kalau
degradation.
dia jadi apa semua jadi, dia jadi dalam forest, dalam hutan, degradation.
Kalau primary forest jadi plantation forest,
plantation kita tahu.
ada woodland tu sama, ada woodland tu maksudnya semak sambung. Maksudnya dia punya forest degradation lah. Kalau contoh macam primary forest terus juga jadi agriculture plantation.
So tidak ada degradation.
Deforestation lah.
Dia on degradation. The moment dia agriculture, dia consider deforestation.
Kalau di primary forest, kalau selective logging still commercial free.
Provided we can maintain lah status.
Sebab selected forest, selected cutting, dia tak cut all the trees. Certain value species only.
Apa yang kena tebang tu?
Apa nak?
Yang ada lubang, bila besar dia makin besar dulu, dia ada lubang tu.
Untuk microcap species, untuk certain age pokok is okay for us to harvest it, because bila dia sampai certain age, dia dah tak ada value untuk as a wood product, sebab dia dah ada hole dekat dalam. Tapi untuk reach that kind of age atau situation, selalunya untuk microcap species is more than 60 years. Kalau bawah 60 years, 35 years to 60 years is a good age untuk kita harvest.
Dia akan nampak penuh.
Ya, dia akan penuh. Dalam batang, dalam trunk tu tak ada gold.
Tapi besar kan? Bukan besar.
Kalau 60 years,
Faham tu nampak.
60 years Drybalano aromatica, which is kapur. Kapur adalah untuk usia 40 tahun adalah lebih kurang, kalau dewasa lelaki 20 bentuk.
Wow.
And then it cost around, kalau kapur dia tak mahal sangat, dalam 80,000 satu batang pokok. Dia boleh jadi 4 kali lori.
Basically yang I think like the one you see is all like really old lah. Consider
Very old
tree that is like overdue already.
Memang boleh, kalau overdue macam tu pun kita tak boleh buat sertifikat, kita tak akan boleh cut. Sebab dari segi ekonomi, dia takkan pulang modal, takkan balik modal untuk kita harvest, kita buka jalan dan sebagainya. masa kita buat pre-inventory, pokok tu tak boleh masuk ke dalam list kita sebenarnya. Sebab tu SMS, masa SMS ni kena ada pre-inventory dan post-inventory. Okay, continue tu.
Contoh, kalau ada forest fire, betul lah, forest fire. Lepas tu naturally dia bakar hutan.
Bakar sendiri.
Nah itu masa dia jual.
Kalau terbakar sendiri,
Forest fire happen naturally.
Dekat hotspot lah.
tu boleh jual balik kan?
Is the wood.
Tapi kadang-kadang ada juga kayu boleh sampai sikit. Tak semua
Boleh
kita
dikeluarkan.
consider loss lah. Ada yang boleh guna lagi untuk kawasan timber tu. What's the question?
Forest fire happen in one piece of large forest lah. Whether the woods can still sell to the EU.
Can.
Sebab yang forest degradation tu dia punya forest degradation tu maksudnya orang yang human activity. Dia human activity yang macam buat dia sampai macam degrade dia punya ekosistem, baru dia tak boleh jual. Kalau contoh macam natural fire, thunderstorm ke, itu kalau berlaku dia masih boleh jual.
And let's say I think let's say like macam yang dicakap tu, jika kita dah salvation yang kita biarkan dia, kita consider tu as naturally regenerating forest lah. Boleh tumbuh balik lah.
Another question I think you need to ask them, okay, if you harvest that forest and then convert that area for the road using house.
Contoh macam kawasan forest tu, lepas tu mereka buat development, jadi ada ke, ada tak macam kali tu boleh jual?
Sebab dia cakap tadi human intervention kan. Kalau dari intervention is not jadi lah.
Macam contoh tempat tu satu forest, lepas tu government tiba-tiba cakap, oh saya nak tempat ini jadi housing development, lepas tu saya nak buat jalan lintas, lepas tu saya potong semua, lepas tu yang lepas potong ini kali itu boleh jual kepada dia.
Kalau dia asal forest kan, Central Forest tukar jadi development.
Yang jawab tu dia boleh jual. Sebab yang dalam Deforestation punya definition dia cakap commercial forest into agriculture. Dia tak cakap commercial forest into like housing development yang itu tak ada. Asal you tak convert into macam rubber plantation tu boleh.
So EUDR tak mention development.
Good.
I think EUDR has always been for the agriculture activity. So anything other than that, and to kalau kita fikir like practically can integrate, kalau kita convert sebagai like housing area kan, then that land will no longer produce anything EUDR compliant lah. Sebab it's not sebab dia bandar kan, pokok pun yang kita nak tebang pun mungkin pokok untuk apa, brush ke tepi je, itu pun pokok hiasan.
So untuk human population kan,
I think we claim more land for agriculture compared to development from for 90%.
I have a question. If can relax okay, that area is the developed area which is jalan raya ke housing area ke, and then suddenly another 50 years government decide to demolish all the thing and then buat agriculture there, which is forest plantation ke or farm ke, and it's happened way after 2020. So is it the product eligible for you?
say still here? Because refer to the first status of the status of the plan.
What was the land before?
It's a forest, and then government developed it for the
When was
highway.
it? When was it developed?
After 2020.
After 2020 was developed.
Yeah.
Then?
And
what
then
was the land?
suddenly, after maybe 20 years, the government decided to demolish all the development, and then to build forest plantation or palm plantation there. Is it the product that come from that area eligible for EUDR?
Yes.
Cannot.
Because previous land use, you can already see it was converted after the cut-off. So we can go back in time and see that concept, right? So your income
But the area is already physically
but it was converted.
It was converted after. So usually if you had done it before, right, then maybe we can still consider.
even though the conversion is not for agriculture.
Doesn't matter.
And then-
Deforestation.
You deforestate the area and then you go farming area, right? And then now if let's say you gonna convert it back, right, you actually consider to breach the first requirement actually, which is the cut-off date. The cut-off date, make it into something. I believe for you to make from a forest, bangunan, actual forest. I think the only eligible one would be a planted forest or forest plantation, which under that category you have said is degradation. So it's already considered deforested.
Macam projek yang nampak pembandaran tapi tak jadi.
You have to ambil. I don't believe you can get naturally regenerating because you have not let it regenerate. And the thing you are left with actually planted forest and plantation forest was some tools unwood land which you have degraded because cut-off date was the primary. Dia ada hierarchy tau between ketiga bahan.
Ada lagi sama tu.
Kalau contoh macam ada pest, ada macam disease lah. Kalau disease tu happen dekat pokok tu, saya buang. Contoh macam ada banyak pokok-pokok sana, lepas tu semua kena pest tu, saya potong. Itu hasil bentuk.
Consider safety for people.
And then you need to cut it because first dia dekat natural forest, right? Kalau dekat natural forest you need to cut it because it will affect another tree yang ada dekat situ. So we assume that dia memang dah damage. Tapi what type of product yang akan keluar based on the yang affected itu you don't know lah.
Tapi biasa I cut it, I still can sell.
If it's a natural forest, right, would you still have disease? Because it's a natural forest, you have another something and suppressing.
Yes.
So you won't have a need to cut something down.
Actually yes. If you came up with a natural forest, you can see a lot of. That's why after we do the logging punya process, you need to do the post inventory to look what is the damage happen after so on. So sebab dari situ you akan tengok liner root, liner tree yang akan belit pokok lain and so on. You need to do a treatment for that kind of thing.
This is very common in our farm. Like Volcanoderm is a
Yes.
fungus that goes rampant because it's not in its natural setting. So it kills.
Even kalau natural forest, you boleh tengok dari drone yang kalau pokok tu affected, dia punya shoot tu affect, yang ada yang dah memang tak ada shoot pun kat atas tu means dia punya root dah damaged by the disease. The most easier way untuk kalau dalam forest.
Under your, I would say under your perspective, it's almost like something you couldn't prevent, like a forest fire, like that. It all boils down to this one go, how you do the forest. If you can maintain a primary forest or a regenerative forest, then it's fine. So for conversion free. Best case scenario is that before 2020 it was already planted forest, plantation forest. Before tumbang dah macam mana pun.
Yang penting tebang dulu sebelum
Yeah.
whatever happen after that.
If you want to replant planted forest or plantation forest, then you change.
Tapi sekarang dah lepas lah, tak boleh.
That's the biggest.
Yang ni pun sama juga.
I think the only reason dia bagi untuk yang dah pernah ditebang tu, and then we let it naturally generating, dia bagi jadi planted forest. Tapi if plantation forest tak bagilah. Planted forest okay.
Oh ya, ini mau teringat satu senario. Jadi kita punya potential klien sebenarnya terbang 2005, okay. Baru sekarang nak demo.
Cukup apa is it?
Kan, sebab dia dah physical. But it's already physical. Dia dah terbang 25.
I 2005. I think come on, you're from forest background. Within that year, they are naturally regenerating forest.
Yeah, dia dah regenerate lagi.
Consider as naturally regenerating forest by this year.
Yeah, dia tanam
It's almost 20 years. Almost 20 years. It would have been a naturally regenerating forest. Dia forest kan sekarang. Sekarang dia nak clear lagi, baru nak plant. Jadi cannot. They actually did
Besar.
2000 hektar.
Okay. Kita boleh ambil lain.
20,000 hectare. And then we let it, like, you know, like we cut and then we let it loose like that, right? It would have been a natural regenerative forest. You wouldn't fit any category other than that. And then now you cut again and plant palm oil. 2025 already practice.
Suruh jual kat China lah.
Yeah.
So ini key actor lah. So who is the key actor in EUDR? For example, like European Commission, who is the one who develop and also oversee the regulation. And then like member state is the country, like country being the Europe. For example, like Poland, Netherlands, the country. So they are the one who actually implement and also enforce the regulation to make sure they actually following the regulation. And then the authorized representative is the one who manage the due diligence. For example, in Malaysia, and then someone, for example, Simon in EU. So I actually appointed Simon as my authorized representative to actually submit the due diligence or to the market. So I appoint him as the authorized person to help me for this. Okay. And the operator trader is now covered already. So operator is the one facing the first person facing the product on the new market, and then the trader actually just doing the trading and then make the product available within the new market. So this one, yeah, the responsibility. So for operator, the responsibility is to do the due diligence. So they need to make sure the regulation is correct, legal requirements, and so and trader is just able to keep the record, keep the information for at least 5 years. Keep the record for 5 years. Let's say the suppliers or anyone to actually customer ask for it, then at least he can just show the information to them. So this one is just for identify whether you are operator or trader. For example, first we need to know whether your product is actually listed in NS1. Okay. If they say no, actually we are going to actually follow the regulation. If they say yes, then you need to know whether you are the first person, whether you are the first person that is actually placing the product in EU. Okay, if they say yes, then you are the breaker. If they say you are no, then whether you got transformed. Just like the example I gave just now. If they say I'm from Malaysia, I send to Simon, and then Simon sent to Amira. Amira is the one who process, and then that one is considered operator. So we need to do the due diligence. If they say no process, no placing the product in the market, just passing the information, selling the product inside within the EU, and it's just a trade. Just a trade. And then the trade.
Actually, really good. So, because under your definition, right, that means anyone who is started trading.
Okay.
Like if you look at my, because you're asking information from MGB market, if who consider under trader, they are processing the material. Yeah, it's just that they're not doing it in EU premise. If they're doing it in EU premise, then they are considered placing product in the market. So right now, most of our client base semua traders, regardless of whether they are mill or refinery or trader with storage or trader without storage. So sebab dia buat EU dan semua processing yang dia buat tu outside of EU. So we only have one client je yang EU operator. Sebab what he does is he processes and patutnya ada buyer dah kan sebelum kita masuk kapal ke EU, tapi dia tak ada buyer lagi. Dia dah set sail to EU actually. Dia simpan semua barang-barang dia kat satu gudang kat Netherlands tu, dan kalau ada buyer baru dia dispatch keluar daripada gudang Netherlands tu. Tapi sebab benda tu dah kat EU, kat Netherlands, dia jadi EU operator. That's why the right hand side you see in the course of the supply chain, do you supply a product for distribution and consumption in use in the EU, whether it is there for payment of free for the purpose of processing, distribution, or commercial consuming, or use on your own business lah. So the processing distribution tu ada, they might do any of this, but they don't do it in the EU, or they do it at EU itself. So yeah. So the first one I would say it's making for that. Baru nak tadi cakap, ini 70 question lah. Then I was like, oh no, actually the first question is my name. Ya, aku ni dah 15 standard.
Dia tahu tak kalau saya salah pun tak tahu kan?
Tahu. Sendiri tahu. Sendiri tahu.
Boleh review result.
Boleh review result.
Takut lah.
Oh, dia contoh lah. Tak boleh tu. Dia training tu. 15 just the initial question tu macam apa lagi additional Ini many sendiri.
Semua soalan dah berhenti ke?
Ya, ya.
Siapa nak jawapannya?
Jawab ke nanti satu nampak salah dah nampak. Baru nampak E je. Baru nampak E last.
Terus
Jangan ni. Bahaya.
Review balik.
Repeat. Sorry.
Repeat Sam.
This is like a lot. There's actually 50.
Yang dua soalan tu lama.
The email question I had to double check.
So berapa mak dapat A?
Pas 12.
Ha?
Pas tu 12.
Kira I pass. Pass. Boleh balik? Baik, go. Thank you. Okay.
Jadi baru dia.
Oh, tak payah itu paper.
Pass. 12.
Okay, so thank you guys for
Kau malam habis kita dah balik. Dia kata Mira. Tak ada. Panggil lah Mira.
I said Thursday or Friday, then he put me Thursday. So I explained to you.
I really like
The Thursday, you all are on Wednesday, so I come on Wednesday and then you will be on Thursday.
if you're okay.
Okay.
I had 1 week.
Can.
Yeah.
Can. So, okay. I'll just tell you. So I come on